Recently, I've been wanting to replay some of the games I played as a child in the 90s. Games like Quake, Half-Life, Need for Speed 2, Half-Life, MechWarrior 2, Half-Life, and even Half-Life. I have no idea why I have 4 copies of Half-Life. But now I'm a grown-up software engineer, the only computer I have is one of these. And while I could play old games on this using virtualization, this exquisitely contoured slither of aluminium won't give me the authentic experience I crave. I need a big beige box. So I bought one. Do not adjust your screen, it really is that colour. According to my calibrated yellometer, this classifies as yellow AF. Rest assured, some retro bright is in its future. I found this system on eBay with the alluringly ambiguous description of Pentium II, spares and repairs. Powers on but doesn't display anything. No hard drive. So yes, it's broken, however it was still the cheapest Pentium II system for sale at that time. In my ongoing effort to never speak to anyone, ever, I didn't bother to ask the seller for more detailed specifications. Instead, I did some sleuthing, and from the pictures I was able to figure out it has a Deschutes Core Pentium II 266, an ATI Rage Pro AGP graphics card, some RAM, my guess would be 64 megabytes. So far, so mediocre, but there's polish on this turd. An Asus P2B motherboard, a well-loved board among retro PC enthusiasts, replete with the venerable Intel 440BX chipset. That was all I needed to know. The list price was £40, I put in a lowball offer of £30, and to my surprise, it was accepted. So including shipping, I paid £40 for this PC, which is about $50 or 7 trillion Russian rubles. Before I try and power this up, I'm just going to open it up, make sure everything's as it should be, make sure I'm not going to blow anything up, so oops, squeaky. Now, I have already had this briefly open, and the first thing I found was this rattling around inside, which I'm hoping wasn't in there the last time it was used, because that could easily short out something on the motherboard and cause me all kinds of problems. Now I'm going to check all the capacitors, but I think they should be okay because from the best I can figure out, this was made in 1998, so just before the great capacitor plague of 1999. And yeah, from what I can see, you can't see anything bulging in there at the moment. There is some corrosion on some of the screws, which isn't a great sign, so it's not been a totally dry atmosphere. No hard disk, but it looks like they've given me a spare IDE cable, so that's nice. One of the things that intrigued me about this case is it's an ATX case, but it's got that weird mode button and light on the front, which almost seems kind of turbo-esque. That's a mode header. It's a power switch. That's interesting. If the power switch is there, why is it not in the motherboard? Oh, look, turbo LED. No way. There's an ATX case with a turbo. I've never seen that before. And this one that should be the power switch is a power switch, so it's got 2 power switches for some reason. The other thing I'm going to check is the jumpers, because this is one of the last motherboards Asus made that still use jumpers, so I'll make sure they're all set right. And then finally I'm just going to take out anything that isn't necessary. So unplug the drives, take out the sound card, this network card, and then when it comes to finally booting it, just put it in a kind of minimum viable computer state. The PC also included a Sound Blaster Vibra 16, a 56K modem, a CD drive, and a 3.5-inch floppy, all of which may or may not work. I checked all the capacitors, connections and jumpers, crossed every appendage and uttered a short prayer to LGR. Time to see if she'll boot up. And nothing. Oh, the power LED just came on that time. Maybe if I just keep mashing buttons? Nope. No post bleeps and the fans aren't even spinning. Time to dig a little deeper. Next I tried the power supply in isolation and found that when I tried to turn it on, the fan did twitch a little bit and eventually started spinning, albeit very slowly. I have a theory, well, 2 theories about what might be wrong with this power supply. So the fan is struggling to spin up and the fan runs on 12 volts, so either there's an issue with the 12 volt rail, which is causing the fan not to spin up and also causing the power supply self-test to fail, which means the motherboard then won't boot, or there's a problem with the fan and it's drawing too much current or something, and that's causing an issue with the 12 volt rail. So I've bridged the terminals here. So when I turn it on, let's see what voltage I get across 12 volts. We have 10.6, which is well out of spec. And how about the 5 volts? We have 5.5, which I think is out of spec as well. What about the 3.3? 3.33, that's not too bad. So yeah, the 12 volt rail is definitely below spec. Power good signal. Oh, so it is giving 5 volts on the power good. So it thinks it's doing okay. I disagree, but you know, even though it seems to think it's okay, I think we'll replace it. The new power supply has arrived. I'm going to test it first like I did the old one. So first turning it on by bridging the green wire to one of the grounds. Now I'm going to test the 12 volt rail and I'm getting 12.17, which is well within spec. Next the 5 volt rail, 4.96, again that's fine. Finally 3.3 at 3.39, which again I think is fine. So it's a unit, it supplies power, what more could I ask for? Let's stick it into the computer and see what happens. And nothing. Not sure how I missed this when I was first looking over this system, guessing because the PSU was in the way, but I don't think the processor's seated properly. Down this side, there's quite a gap and it's a bit wonky, so yeah, I think this wasn't seated properly. That looks straighter to me. So let's try turning it on again and see if that's made any difference. Oh, I think we got, yeah, no way. It posted. I can't believe that was it. That's amazing, right. It appears to be working. We got a single beep, which means post checks have passed. So let's plug a screen in and see what happens. Yeah, it's not 1998 anymore. I need an old screen. I've borrowed a screen with a VGA input. Time to see what we can see. Well, look at that. I was right about the RAM, 64 megabytes. And it's telling me there's a hardware monitor error. It's just because the new PSU doesn't provide -5 volts, which this system doesn't need anyway, and also there isn't a case fan installed. So I can just go ahead and ignore those. I'm not sure about that BIOS update data incorrect message though. And disk boot failure. No shit, I haven't got any drives installed. I call that a rousing success. The replacement power supply cost me £10, so for £50 all in, I've got a working Pentium II PC. And it's great value when you consider that just the Asus P2B motherboard alone, in working condition, will sell for double that on eBay. So all in all, good stuff. Of course, now I need an operating system and a hard disk before I can play my 4 copies of Half-Life, but that will be the next video.